When I thought about that famous African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I found that you could also go fast and go far if you go together with people. This is the foundation of Fashion Africa sourcing trips. We started off with Monday, going to visit Wax Print House, seeing the whole process of the production, how they print it, how they spin the cotton, everything, they weave in. It was amazing, such an awesome day out.
A very warm welcome, dear Africa Business Jumpstarters. This is Dr. Harnet, your Africa Business Coach online and offline. And today I have a special guest with me. It is Jacqueline Shaw from London. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Hey, Dr. Harnet, lovely to be here. Thank you, thank you.
So everyone, of course, wants to know how you are linked to doing business in Africa. Jacqueline is an Africa fashion consultant, right? She's sourcing fashion and fashion products from Africa and is assisting. Well, why are you not telling us? That would be much better. Come on, Jacqueline, tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I work with brands, retailers and designers who want to up-level their sourcing strategy and take it to the continent. So they may want to be doing production of large-scale orders, or maybe small brands who just want to set up their business in Africa. So I work with them and connect them with suppliers and help them with their product development as well.
Okay, fantastic. So the big theme here, Africa Business Jumpstarters, is African fashion. You know, very different from what I'm usually talking about, agriculture and tourism. Fashion is a growing industry in Africa. Tell us, Jacqueline, in a few words, what's happening in the fashion industry in Africa, and yeah, how is Africa represented globally at this point? What do you see happening?
Well, it's very interesting because I see like two major directions going on in Africa's fashion industry. So you've got, of course, the front face of fashion, which is very much about a lot of wax print, which is synonymous with Africa, and a lot of the big names such as the Nigerian designers and the South African designers and the Kenyan designers, as well as the Ghanaians. But that's kind of the face, the shows, the glitz, the glamour that people associate with fashion. So that's becoming more and more popular, especially as African music is becoming popular. The two are connected. On the other side now is the business and the industry side of it, where production is happening. So we're seeing set up a lot of business parks in places like Ethiopia, and Rwanda, even through to Senegal, Kenya, even in Nigeria. I'm seeing people setting up all over the place now, production houses, large and small, and the big boys and girls of the fashion industry, like your H&Ms, your Gaps and so forth, they're all doing their production, or doing some of their production, in Africa. So there's the two sides of it, and it's very exciting times, and very interesting, and I'm also very curious to see how it will develop. But right now it's a good time to be in fashion in Africa.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. So I know that you assist large companies, Western companies, with sourcing from Africa, but you also assist, Africans from the diaspora or just entrepreneurs who are interested in creating their own brand or their fashion business in relation to Africa. I actually found a beautiful testimony that I wanted to read out because I think it summarizes maybe what you can do for people. I wish I had known Jacqueline and her business, Africa Fashion Guide, when I started my fashion business many years ago. With her knowledge and experience, my life would have been so much easier in the fashion business. As the African fashion industry continues to evolve and grow, Jacqueline adds value to both new and existing businesses like mine. Having her at the end of the phone line to test ideas, strategies, and bring a fresh perspective is invaluable. Wow, Jacqueline, this is a really wonderful testimony from one of your clients, right? So what do people come with you? What kind of challenges do they face where they say, I need help, and then they turn to you as a consultant?
Yeah, so if we look at the smaller brands and the designers who are setting up, the diasporans as well, a lot of the challenges, they come because they don't know where to source. Africa is like a whole new landscape. Even if they've got heritage from there, they've never done that kind of business. So they just assume, oh, let me go to my country of origin and that will be where I should do my production. But then they get ripped off, or they get dodgy samples made, and they just can't they can't sell that product. So then they just feel frustrated, and they start to believe that, you know, what the gurus say, whatever people say, that fashion can't be made in Africa. So what I do, I take them, I say, let's look at your business. We look for it from the ground up. And I say, don't bother look at where you're sourcing, as in like what you have been sourcing before, but let's look at where is right for your product, okay? So there's different regions in the continent which may be better for different type of production. Maybe there's more leather in one country and they'd be better at doing bags and shoes. So if that's the product you're doing, we'll go look there. It may not be your home country, but let's go and look there. So that's one of the major challenges, as well as the typical ones we hear of, things like the electricity issues, people not showing up for work, all sorts, quality, skills may not all be there, as well as one of the biggest issues that is found is value addition. A lot of the raw materials are being exported, so then they want particular materials, they can't get it, they have to import it, it's expensive. So Africa's not as cheap as they originally thought. But these are probably the summary of kind of the key problems that we hear, and you may probably have heard in your own line of business as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I think what I quickly picked up is that you also see, especially among the African diaspora, the emotional decision making, that people want to do business where they have relations to that country, right? They come from that country, or they did a DNA test and they want to source from that country, but that country may or may not be the best country for your product line, right?
Exactly.
Countries that are specialized on leather, as you said. There are other countries that are specialized on prints. Others have maybe some kind of accessories. So you guide them in terms of finding the best countries and the best companies to source what they need. Is that
That's right. But I take it even deeper, because I've worked in fashion nearly 20 years, living and working in China, Turkey, Germany.
Oh, wow. You lived in China?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
For a fashion brand there as well.
Right.
So I got to work direct with a factory and doing sourcing and so forth on the ground there. And as well as just within my industry, working for brands like Puma and C&A, you go and visit factories. So I understand the supply chain. I understand the process of setting up a business, of working in fashion. So when it comes to the designers and brands that I work with, a lot of them don't have that experience. So I have to work with them on that first to get their mindset ready, to get their understanding ready. And then then the main thing they usually come to me for is the suppliers. And that is what I do provide, are the suppliers, but I match the right suppliers for them, for their business. And I help take them through the process. They can do it once, and then they can rinse and repeat season after season.
Wow. Okay, great. So you make it really easy for them to kind of figure out the whole forest, the complex forest of how to do business in Africa in fashion.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic fun. So Jacqueline, I mean, a lot of people that are, watching my programs are people from the diaspora, also people on the continent who want to start a business, who want to leave their, rat race behind themselves, working for someone else, feeling limited. They want to dive into their fullest potential, start their own businesses. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who are creative in regards to, they would love to create something like a fashion brand or a bag brand or accessories, things like that. Where do you see the biggest opportunities in this regard in Africa, or actually in the West, right? So what is the West looking for? Because very often, I don't know if you would agree, Jacqueline, but very, very often what I see with the African diaspora, when we think of selling African products, we often think of Africans buying our products, even in the West, right? But very often there is even a Western clientele, right? So how do you see that developing, and what do you think are the big opportunities in fashion to get started?
it's very interesting actually that you raised this topic. I recently was at a conference speaking on a panel, and on the panel was one of the biggest wax print houses in the world called Velisco, based in Holland. And even they kind of confirm what I'm seeing a lot, and what you've probably seen as well in your business, is the African American story, how the connection, the interest has grown, they're rebuilding connections with the continent. And so that then they want to be wearing a particular clothing, even if it's a dashiki and things that are kind of again synonymous with Africa. And the wax prints of buying the jewelry and so forth. They want to kind of...
You're interfering with the microphone, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No worries. Go ahead. Yes, we're listening.
Is this okay?
Yes, much better.
Perfect. So yeah, so I was saying that there's an African American story where they're connecting more with the continent, and so they want to purchase goods which are African inspired, clothing, jewelry, and so forth. And so even like Velisco was saying that a lot of they're now doing business with companies in the US who want to source their textiles, because obviously there's a big interest from the Americans, African Americans who want to purchase it. So they're getting a lot of business from that continent, from the Americas, which is African prints, or wax print really. And then the other side is the luxury story. This is something that has been kind of discussed for a while. I mean, we have these quotes about, and I do quote it myself, even though it's not completely the right quote, but it makes sense in the sense that the craft industry is the second biggest employer for the developing world after agriculture. So the luxury is seen as a craft. It's seen because it's handmade, it's slow, it's something people put more money into. And so with all the craft skills in Africa, with the handmade textiles and so forth, there is a lot of interest there. But yes, like you're saying, it may not be diasporan Africans. It may be those, those Westerners, those Europeans who'll be buying the product because of their interest, because they want to own something which is kind of cultural or heritage. So I see both sides, the American story and then the luxury craft story developing now.
Right. So it's very important to kind of figure out in your business who you would like to target,
yes,
and then create your products accordingly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really exciting. Really, really exciting.
Exciting times for African fashion. Yeah, and you hear also a lot of new fashion designers are coming out of Africa, right? That are now on the stage in London, Milano, New York, Paris, right?
And many of them are tapping into their heritage. So you've got like a designer called Laduma of the brand Makosa. I can't get the click sound, the South African click, but his brand is tapping into his heritage, and he's using knitwear to tap into the koza. Again, I can't do the click, but he's tapping into the beadworks and some of his heritage, and the whole the rites and the rites of passage for the young men, and he's brought that into knitwear. And then you've got designers in like the Nigerians who are using like the adire, which is like a batik, like a wax resistant technique, but it's using like local indigo. So they're using locally sourced techniques and textiles, and they're selling in places like Selfridges and high-end stores because the way that they positioned it, and then it's handmade. So then you're seeing a lot of this. You're seeing a lot of, like I said, the woven cloths, and the designers are really tapping into their heritage, and that's what people kind of want a bit of that. I think people don't just want like wax print like what I'm wearing. Yet they will still have that. They want a kind of a mix as well now.
Right. Okay. So a lot of developments coming up. Yes. And so for someone who says, wow, this amazes me, maybe someone who is very much into fashion and who would love to start something, maybe has put it in the back burner for all these years, what do you say are the first steps for someone who knows they have a creative vein and they want to get started? What would you say are the first steps to take?
I would say come and talk to me as the first step. But yeah, they need to know that there is a market for it. So, for example, they may want to do wax print, but maybe there's not that much interest in it. For example, it's looking at what is really working well. So, for example, one of my previous clients, she, she did training with me, then she went to Ghana with our sourcing trips that we do, take people to the continent. And then she moved out to Ghana the year after, and she set up a business.
Yeah.
And her business is called Woven, and she uses she's been exporting woven baskets. So if you know Ghana, you know the raffia and the hand woven cloth in the northern region. That's what she just tapped into, and she's exporting that to her home country of Canada, to Zambia, I think now South Africa. She's been featured on CNN and Forbes and so forth, because
amazing,
bringing trade to the continent, and she's doing like larger exports.
Amazing.
So
and these baskets, sorry to interrupt you, but these baskets, they were very fashionable. I think even like the last summer, right? As accessories and
exactly.
And people they were selling for a lot of dollars and pounds.
A lot of, like the Hills and Habitats of the UK, and a lot of the large kind of independent kind of furniture stores are grabbing all of these things, Urban Outfitters and all of these. They're loving it, and people want these kind of unique products for their home, because we want to build more home and experiences as well. So, you've got many countries on the continent who produce these bags. If it's out of Sisa, Raffia, there's so many different options of different colorways and sizes, and it's fantastic. So she's tapped into that, and now she's looking at other product that she can sell as well, like the kente and shea and all sorts. So really proud of her, and that's what people can do. Look at something that might be a bit more popular, might be a bit more different, but then they will have to go to the continent at some point. I mean, I'm sure you say to your people, you have to at some point go to the continent. You can't in the beginning, especially with the support of a coach or a consultant. You can just kind of do things on your own with them, with their help, but then you do at some point have to go meet your supplier, meet your artisan, build those connections and those relationships with them, understand the culture, understand the way that they produce and the way things work in that country. Because understanding the exporting, that's a whole nother ball game as well, is exporting that product once you've got it made. So when I take do my trips to Africa, I take people to meet the ministers and so forth, ministers of trade or development boards, or whichever kind of manufacturing units that are out in those countries, so they can meet with them and understand the systems that are happening in that country, so that they can export correctly and wisely.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen one of the videos where you took a group to Ghana and you went inside the companies that did the traditional prints. I think maybe we can attach that video at the end of our interview or our discussion here, because it's a beautiful video, and it just shows, what you're actually doing on the ground and how exciting that can be. So I think I'll attach that, because it's a beautiful video. I absolutely love it. So Jacqueline, so the way I see it is there are certain or different avenues that one can take. So one in terms of the target groups. So you could target the African Americans, you could target the Africans in the diaspora who kind of want to connect with their heritage, with their roots. You could target on the other side, as you said, with the luxury kind of and Westerners also who really want to go for more exotic kind of products. And then there's the fashion side of it, so clothing and accessories. But then there is the, what do you call it, like the home what do you call it, homeware, home accessories, right?
Yes.
So those are also different kind of avenues to focus on. So
but they're both I mean, that's what's a lot of familiarity with Africa, is a lot of the home products and wooden products, or even bedding and curtains and throws and things like this. So we're seeing a lot of that as well in the marketplace. The fashion, I just see more people doing the larger production now of basic products though. So your shirts, your workwear, your t-shirts, your school wear, things like this, which is more typical and larger scale, coming out of like the bigger regions like the South Africa and the Kenya, Ethiopia, like I mentioned earlier. And of course, Madagascar, Mauritius, these typical large production countries. So there is that side, but then, like I said, there's more people want to do unique fashion, unique clothing fashion, bags and accessories. So that's where I'm seeing developing now, which is really exciting.
Right, fantastic. Jacqueline, so I know you have also an event coming up, right? You actually have a conference that you've run for several years, taking place in London later this year. It's called the Fashion Africa Conference, right?
Yeah.
And you actually partnered recently with the Trade Department of the UK government who want to support the conference, which congratulations, because it means you are, you're visible. And you are taking center stage, and that's so important. If we want to represent Africa, we cannot kind of work in isolation or on a small level. We have to be out there and play it big. So I was so happy when I heard about that. So tell us more about the conference and people who would love to really connect with you, others in the fashion industry. Tell us a bit more about the upcoming conference.
Yeah, so the conference, this is really the opportunity that I take to bring people together. So the conference I've held in Kenya before, and in Ghana, and even in Ethiopia, but it regularly happens in London. And we get people flying in from various parts of the world to come and speak or come and attend. So the conversation is really important. It's to bring the different actors, the stakeholders, the industry experts together, even the students, the next up and coming generation in the industry, bring them all together and build connections, discuss what's happening in industry. I mean, we've got a lot of things like, blockchain and Bitcoin, things like this that's happening even within the industry, because different methods of payment is involved in the fashion industry now, because how does an artisan get paid? If you're working with artisans, you need to consider this mobile pay and so forth. So we discuss these kind of things, IP as well, because that's become a major issue in the fashion industry, is intellectual property. So, and then generally the designers and the manufacturers and what's going on, like the big business parks are developing, like I mentioned before, that's happening on the continent. So we discussed all of these things, and people come and tell their stories, those who are already producing on the continent, those who are designers and so forth. So yeah, the conference is happening in September, and the UK government, the Department for International Trade, are on board. We've had some great supporters in the past, and really excited about this, because especially being a British born, I at a time when the UK is really building connections with Africa even more because of politics right now, with Brexit and so forth. I'm feeling quite positive about the opportunities of what can be developed for African fashion industry. So yeah, it's really, really good event, and I'm encouraging everybody, even if you've never set up your business before, you've never stepped into Africa, but especially those buyers, designers, product developers, banks, everybody who's got an invested connection to the continent. The fashion industry is a global industry, and it's something that it makes money. And so if you want to get involved in the industry that is always producing, then the fashion industry is definitely one, and this conference is the place to be.
You heard it. I mean, that was summing all up, summarizing it very well. So you heard it, dear Africa Business Jump Starters. If you are interested in fashion and you want to connect that creativity with the continent of Africa, you should be at the conference, the Fashion Africa Conference, taking place on the 9th of September 2019. There will actually be a second day where Jacqueline will hold a master class. So for those of you who really want to dive in, you can add some training to that as well, which I think is of such great value. You don't get these opportunities very often. And Jacqueline has been in the industry, as you heard, for many years, and this conference has been running for several years as well. So you will be in the best hands, and you can connect with everyone in the industry under one roof. So it's the place to be. And Jacqueline, what are your final words to our Africa Business Jump Starters, especially those who feel the nudge, who feel they have a creative side in them, they would love to do something like that, but somehow they're too scared to take the jump?
I say feel the fear and do it anyway, because we never know what we can achieve until we step out into the water. And that, you know, we were all born with a purpose, and just touching Africa through the textile industry, you can change lives, you can create impact on the ground, and you can already also build a legacy business as well. So I want to encourage more people. Don't look at what you don't have, just connect with the right people. You're already connected with Dr. Harnet. You're getting trained on African business in general. If you want more support on the fashion industry, you can connect with me. But you need to step out, because the industry is ripe and ready, and they're encouraging you to come over. Africa wants to do business with you in the textile industry, but this is the time to jump on board.
You heard it. Africa is ready for business. Where are you? Step in, take the leap, right? And I think for all of you, I think you would agree, Jacqueline, for all of us who have actually taken the leap, it is such a rewarding space to
absolutely.
Isn't it?
I fell in love with the continent.
Yeah.
When I saw what can be done there in the fashion industry, I just had to share the message, and I just want as many people to jump on board and create, you know, a new community of designers who are setting up in Africa. So let's do this. Let's make it happen.
Let's do it. All right, fantastic. There will be a link below the video if you want to find out more about the Fashion Africa conference, or you want to register. We'll leave a link there for you. So this is it from us, dear Africa Business Jam Starters. As you heard it, Africa is ready for business. If you are still working for someone else and you are feeling bored, or you're feeling like a robot in your job, it's time to make the leap, right? And to join us in this most exciting space and time. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. It was a pleasure to have you, and we'll talk soon. All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye. Bye-bye.
When I thought about that famous African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I found that you could also go fast and go far if you go together with people. This is the foundation of Fashion Africa sourcing trips. We started off with Monday, going to visit Wax Print House, seeing the whole process of the production, how they print it, how they spin the cotton, everything, they weave in. It was amazing, such an awesome day out.
Culturally, what the benefits are, what you need to know to come and work in Africa. You can't just walk in here thinking that some country that's been doing manufacturing since 1700s, even though they've been doing fabric since 1700s, there's a whole another way of working here, and the infrastructure is still being developed, and you have to be ready.
Tuesday we did so much more. We went all the way to Cape Coast to visit an amazing cooperative of women batikers.
Global Mass came into being in 2003 with 6 co-founders. These women say, if you help me to grow my business and you don't find market for me tomorrow, I will not be here.
think it was very important for me to participate on this trip, simply because I wanted to source new factories, new textile makers, new artisans, and understand not only the type of business they do, but the way they conduct their business. And also I think it's important to understand the nuances and the interconnections between the makers, larger business, even down to government, as well as at the end of the chain with designers and customers. And I feel as a designer and as a consultant, I'm better able now to operate, in Ghana, and also advise clients how to operate in Ghana.
Now Thursday was a very special day because we went all the way to Keta, to a town called Keji, and we met with the Kente weavers. Now Kente is very traditional to Ghana. For this trip, that was a very special experience.
Every day was fun. Every day was fun. We went to the Volta quite a few times. I'd loved seeing the rich heritage of my people with the Kente weavers and the basket weavers, and just to see the hard work that goes into it. Just a wonderful experience overall, and I recommend anyone to do it.
Friday now was a little bit more industry specific. We visited different types of factories of different sizes. So these are garment makers, CMT units. We visited those with 800 workers, sewers, tailors, seamstresses, everything, Gerber pattern makers, through to the smaller units which had about 12 tailors there.
I came with some ideas, I came with some questions, and I wanted them answered. And what this trip indeed did in Ghana was allow me to meet face to face with fabric designers, fabric makers, kente weavers, basket weavers, to ask them process questions. How, what, where, when, how could I do this myself, and how can I take it to the market? It actually even allowed me to think of certain things of how I can even help young people as a trainer, as a marketer. And what I saw was gaps to the market, and I also saw areas of development that I could use or share with other people. If you're in the industry, if you want to enter the industry, if you're thinking about certain things you want to do, book now on this trip. It not only helps your research, it saves time. I've met some amazing people that I'm going to keep in contact with, and guess what? It's going to allow me to take my dream, my passion, and my goals further.